Wow, you guys put me in a pickle here because I'm a channel that likes to talk about the news and international events. But YouTube's TOS doesn't really want you to talk about the news and international events. But I'm doing my best to stay within the guidelines. You see, they call this sensitive content. You're not allowed to talk about tragic events. But at the same time, they do allow you to talk about the policy surrounding these topical events, which is what I want to do, right? I don't care about the event in question. I care about the morality espoused by some people. And also like to check my thinking to see if I'm really that far gone when it comes to my principles and how the world should be, right? So, let me see how to put this, right? It's difficult. It's not like going with a friend at a pub and just talking about the subject. You need to formulate it in your head before you speak, because words have consequences. Okay, so it all started with the president of France, Macron, out of the blue, with President Emmanuel Macron wanting to enforce France's secularism and nationalism. Which means that if you're in France, first of all, you are French. That is your main core identity. Doesn't matter what other identity you have. First and foremost, you're French. And after that come other identities. Now, what does it mean to be French? Well, it means liberté, égalité, fraternité. It means human rights. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of association. Like all of the human rights that come from that. You need to respect them. No matter what ideology you have, if it comes into conflict with the human rights, your ideology needs to bend. It's not that the human rights need to bend in order to fit your ideology. And at the end of the day, like, human rights are a good thing, right? I mean, France must be doing something right if millions of immigrants want to go there. If it's a bad country, if it's a horrible place, why do millions of people want to travel there? Clearly, those people must love France, right? Like, they must be infatuated with France. Otherwise, they would go to Sweden. But no, they choose France because they love, they adore the French way of life. They love the French cuisine. They love the way the French are doing things. They absolutely are infatuated with France if they want to go into that tax hellhole. I mean, every day, every single day, the French legislator has one thing on his mind. One thing. How can we tax people more? You know, like in France, they shouldn't even call it taxation. They should call it just the government allows you to keep what you're making. Because when it goes like over 50% in taxes and you add the indirect taxes like the gas tax and, the green tax and the sugar tax and all the other taxes, then the question is not like how much do you give to the government. It's like how much does the government allow you to keep, right? Like, in my opinion, it's not a place that I would want to live. And the crime rate is high because normally when you tax people so much, they go out in the street and they start burning a car or some shit, right? The yellow vests, I mean, they've been burning stuff for years now. They're displeased, to say the least. The yellow vest managed to unite the entire political compass from the far left to the far right. For the first time in my life, I have seen a president that actually managed to unite the people. There were pictures on the internet with Nazi groups, neo-Nazis marching with communists. Shoulder to shoulder against the taxation from Macron. So, it's not a place that I would want to go. But, like, apparently, millions upon millions upon millions of immigrants chose France as their destination because they really love the French way of life. Well, if that's the case, it needs to be preserved, right? And the way of life is human rights. Freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of religion, right? But you can still practice your religion without killing people, right? So I understand from the mainstream media that if you go overboard and you become a religious bigot, you're in the wrong, right? Like, you're not a representative of your religion or anything. No, it's just a crazy guy that went out and decided to have how should I put this on the YouTube terms of service? Right? A theocratical debate, a mostly peaceful theocratical debate in the middle of the street, right? That is horrible. That is not acceptable. Like, I thought that everyone is on the same page. I literally thought that, like, regardless of the political affiliation, regardless of whatever people believe, everyone is on the same page that assassinating people who blaspheme is not okay. At least in France. Like, I don't know about the rest of the world. I haven't studied all the legislation. I haven't visited all the countries. But I assume, right, like the way it happens in France is normal. Do not use cutlery to assault people on the street. I hope this is not too sarcastic for YouTube. You know, there's something else that I noticed. When you have a high-pitched voice like mine, and you wobble back and forth while talking about things that should be common sense, most people dismiss you. But if you talk about horrible stuff, but you have the "this is your captain speaking" type of voice, everyone is like, oh yes, yes, absolutely, yes, yes, no, that's good. We are going to raise your taxes by another 60%. We're going to add additional gas tax and environmental tax and sugar tax, and beverages are going to be taxed and tax. No, that's fine. Like if you talk like that, that's perfect. That is excellent. Ding, you know. But if you talk like me, oh no. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Well, you know, a couple of years ago, certain people of an extremist orientation decided to, and by the way, like orientation, right? So extremist orientation, it means they were born that way, right? Am I to understand this from the Webster dictionary? They changed the definition, right? And it's not preference, right? It's not an extremist preference. It's an extremist orientation. Okay, they were born that way. I disagree with it, by the way. Like, I think it's ideological, but like, just try to understand the new speak that the United States is trying to impose on the rest of us because some woman wants to be a judge on the Supreme Court. Anyway, right. So these people have a disagreement over the artistic interpretation of a certain religious figure. Again, like I need to say it in a way so that the terms of service doesn't get upset. I don't even know like what's allowed and not allowed anymore. But I'm erring on the side of caution. So they go in, right? They go into a place and they kill everyone, right? Everyone changes their Facebook flags, you know, with the France icon. Everyone shows solidarity. Everyone blah blah blah. But you see, for the first time in forever, the Christians, Marxist atheists, and Islamic conservatives allying together, making the argument that no, you see, you shouldn't have artistic freedom. You shouldn't be able to offend. And I'm reading this and I can't believe it because what they are saying, and this is literally like, please, someone like from the left, if you're a leftist person watching this, contradict me, please. I want to see the other side of the issue because I don't think this issue has two sides. I think that every single person that said you shouldn't offend, literally before the bodies got cold, they're actually saying that they agree, they're on the same page with the extremists. They're literally saying, yes, the extremists had a point, but they went a little bit too far. They were a little bit too extreme for our taste. But other than that, like they definitely had the point. Had they, you know, like had these extremists come to the table of dialogue and just, you know, explain their point of view, things would have changed. And I'm reading this and I couldn't believe it. Like, imagine if this would have happened with any other event. You know, like 9/11. It's like, oh yeah, well, you know, like the World Trade Center was indeed a powerhouse for the American economy and it had to go. Like, are you crazy? Are you like, is this, huh? But yeah, no, so now the same debate is happening. Only now it's more interesting because you have world leaders joining the debate, right? So on one hand, you have President Macron, which decided to make the French government project the images on governmental buildings, which is pretty much the Bush way of handling things. It's like, we are not going to let the terrorists change our way of life. And the way of life means artistic freedom, right? If you are and I don't understand how this affects people's religious beliefs, right? Like, how does it stop you from worshiping in your home? How does it stop you from worshiping in your mosque? Now you can say, well, it's offensive to them. Well, South Park is offensive to Christians. There is actually a Netflix thing with a gay Jesus. I mean, like, do you want to go through all of the art that comes from Westerns attacking Christianity or attacking other religions? And by the way, like, this is something that I learned from the mainstream media, is that Christianity is not the religion of peace. It's not a religion of those. It's a religion of the Crusades, a religion of oppression and oppressing the LGBTQ plus community. That's what Christianity is. So if this oppressive, warlike religion is having its extremists not reaching for the cutlery when they're seeing the Netflix documentary or the South Park documentary, then surely we can expect that the prestigious people of the religion of peace are going to do the same, right? Yeah, it's offensive, but you don't have to watch it. You don't have to see it. You don't have to look at it. Just. But no, apparently right. So now we got Erdogan calling Macron brain dead. Is this what we're doing now, right? Erdogan, which is a dictator in anything but name, who blackmailed the European Union with refugees by sending them over to Greece, and it didn't like just send them. No. It pushed them out of the Turkey border and closed the door behind them, pushing them into the neutral zone where the only way they could have gotten out is by charging at the Greece's border, right? Did we forget that incident? Like, it happened before the pandemic, not too long ago. He arrests judges in his own country. He arrests political dissidents in his own country. And now this is the person that's lecturing one of the leaders of the European Union about human rights and calls him brain dead? Like, is this what we're talking? Like, we need to take this guy seriously now? Like, what's next? Is Putin going to lecture Merkel? Who else are we going to take wisdom from? I'm really curious. Is China sitting in line to lecture the European Union? They probably are. Which begs the question, because I couldn't find it. Maybe there is. But, like, has Erdogan ever criticized China for their treatment of Uyghurs? Like, is that the thing? Or it's like, not my Muslims, not my problem? How does it function? Like, I need to know the principle. To know how to think. Just give me the principle. I can't find it on mainstream media anymore. And it's very funny that, again, Erdogan, of all people, instead of being concerned about the Muslim in France, maybe he should be concerned about the Muslims in Turkey that he's oppressing. Maybe he should actually be lectured about his human rights violations. And you know what this actually symbolizes? It just made me realize something. Because it's not just Erdogan, it's Pakistan and it's a couple of other Islamic nations which are renowned for upholding human rights and treating their citizens very well. It reminded me when in Sweden, there was this minister in the government. Again, Sweden is a very progressive and enlightened nation. And they said that they disagree with the fact that Saudi Arabia still has corporal punishment in 2020, right? Now, I don't know, like, how are we supposed to judge things? I think if an American politician, regardless of what party he comes from, if an American politician would be like, you know what we need to do? We need to start whipping people, right? Like, we need to start adding whipping as a part. I think people would freak out, and rightfully so. They would ask the guy to go to a mental asylum. They would reopen mental asylums just for that guy. Like, it's something that's a problem. I mean, I don't view corporal like lashing people in the public square to be an acceptable thing in 2020. But, like, again, I don't know who I'm talking with on the internet anymore. They might have a blue check mark and they might say that I'm in the wrong and I'm far right for not wanting corporal punishment, right? But the Swedish woman, she actually came out and she said so. And apparently she was branded as Islamophobic. I mean, why do you fear that? You need to embrace. I don't know. I don't know why is it Islam, but it was, right? And a lot of Islamic leaders and a lot of Islamic businessmen decided to try and to threaten Sweden with boycott if they don't fire the lady. Now, I haven't watched to see what ended up happening, but it kind of shows why a lot of these Western leaders are afraid to do what Macron does and take a firm stance. Because the money stops flowing, the money doesn't flow anymore, they get upset. So like, let me understand this, all right? Like, the fact that France was kind and charitable in order to take millions of people that were impoverished and they were fleeing from war and, they needed a safe haven, okay? So because they did that, they now need to change their way of life and ban human rights, like ban freedom of expression. And think it's acceptable to assassinate teachers on the street? Like, is this the new normal? I'm trying to understand. Like, please, someone on the left, Talk to me in the comment sections. Just talk to me. Explain it to me. Like, I need to understand how it works. So, like, if a million of Romanians, let's say, would flee to Saudi Arabia, and the Romanians would maintain their tradition by drinking alcohol during Christmas and eating pork, and the Saudi Arabians would be upset about it, the Saudi government should punish the Saudi Arabians for being upset at the newcomers, right? It's not that if you decide to go, like if a Romanian goes to Saudi Arabia, he should integrate in that society and understand that he chose to go there and therefore he should not drink alcohol and he should not eat pork. Because, like, if he wanted to do that badly, why didn't he go to Israel and instead he chose Saudi Arabia, right? It makes sense. I mean, you have the choice. There's many opportunities. You get to pick and choose in this situation, right? So the Romanians should become more Saudi Arabian. It's not that the Saudi Arabia should become more Romanian, right? Like, but no, apparently, like, this is the wrong way of thinking. Anyway, right? This is bigotry, huh? It's bigotry. Okay, now here is some reaction that I found which bewildered me. We got British person Majid Nawaz, which, by the way, I respect. You know, say what you want. Like, I like listening to the guy's opinions. Every now and then I tune in. But this time, I think he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball because he says, I'm concerned because boycott France is trending globally, led by Turkey and Pakistan. My position on blasphemy is clear, but this is no longer about principles, it's about peacemaking. I advise Macron and France, pause now and ask why French Muslims feel so alienated and disenfranchised. So like, this is where I find it a little bit interesting. So, because there is violence, which apparently is being sparked by Turkey and Pakistan, France is the one that needs to capitulate. And it's about peacemaking. So every single time a faction of people is violent, the solution is to capitulate. So like, you're saying that if you want to get shit done, you need to follow Turkey and Pakistan's example. When is Turkey and Pakistan going to capitulate, though? When are they ever going to say, all right, you know what, that's correct, you're right, we're going to capitulate a little bit. When has it ever happened? Why is it that only the Western democracies upholding human rights are the ones that constantly need to capitulate? And where is the line? Like, do you even believe that there is a line? Like, okay, up till this point we capitulate, but if any way further, we find it unacceptable. I mean, there was a situation in the United States, right? Like, I don't see it being talked in the media as much because there is no political clout to drag from it. But I think it's the second worst shooting in the US, where some religious bigot went into a gay bar and decided to, because he saw on TV two gay people kissing, he went into a gay bar and shot people there, right? Do you think the US should capitulate if more people like him were putting pressure? If there was like a big group, like, should you No, I don't think you should capitulate. I think you need to stand on your principles. Principles are not there to be parked. Alright? I do not see, and by the way, like, these principles to me don't seem to be that tyrannical. It's like freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of living your life without fearing the cutlery on the street. Right? Like, that is not something that I find debatable. I don't even know why we're having this debate to begin with. Which is kind of weird that I find myself on the same side with the German politicians for a change. Which are also tax. More regulations, more government power. Muy governmente, more. Give us your national sovereignty. You know, like, that's the Germans. And I find myself agreeing with them now. Because they're actually saying that what the Turkish president did against the French president Macron Emmanuel is a new low. So Mas said, which is the leader of the Atomic Energy Agency, that the German government was standing in solidarity with its European neighbor in the fight against Islamic extremism. Erdogan caused an uproar over the weekend, blah, blah, blah. And the French president needs to have his mental state checked, claims Erdogan. Yeah. No, I'm with Germany. And because Germany said this, guess what? Romania followed. And now the Romanian prime minister is also in solidarity with France. I mean, I always thought that everyone agrees that there is a difference between Islamic extremism and Islam, right? Like, one is tolerable, one is not. When did they become equal? When is it that... Because if you go on Twitter, you will see so many blue check marks that do not make the distinction anymore. Did I miss something? Was there a conference that I wasn't invited? Do I need to get, like, are the check marks communicating with each other through means unknown? Do I need to get a check mark to hear what they're saying? Because I missed the debate. I missed the debate when it's like, okay, extremism and just, moderate is the same thing. It should be treated the same way. And this idea that if you have like a violent group that threatens with violence, you should capitulate. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. Like, well, what happens if the fascists ever come to power again? Do you capitulate because they're violent? What is this nonsense? What if, like, some random cult forms, like, what was it, Extinction Rebellion or some other edgy shit that we can't even foresee right now. But, like, in 5-10 years, they become a thing and they start, threatening people with violence. Do you capitulate? It's insane. No, like, this is not acceptable. I need to give you the look to show you that it's unacceptable. You know what we do in Romania? When something is unacceptable, we add to it. Like, it's unacceptable. It's a of indignation. Like, how could you even think of something like Honestly, the English language needs the I'm also curious, like, if YouTube is going to be upset with this video. I hope not. Like, did I talk about the events? No, I talked about the policies surrounding these events. Did I talk about hate sprache? No, I did not talk about hate sprache. I'm not hate. No, I have no bigotry towards religious people. Absolutely none. I have bigotry towards people that assassinate others on the street or people that agree with that. Right, with that, I think a little bigotry is okay, right? A little, not a lot, but a little. Like, just no, killing is wrong, right? Can we say this? Is it okay if we, Let me know what you think. I'll see you guys in the comment section.